Hey everyone, how are you doing? Welcome to this workshop where we'll be learning about web accessibility, and we will work on a production application that is currently not accessible and see how we can make it accessible hands-on. This workshop will be a lot of fun, hopefully, and you will learn a lot of useful new stuff. So first thing first, who am I? My name is Mohammed Tahir Ghazal. I'm a web developer. I specialize mainly on the front end side of things. Most of my work there is with React.js usually. Currently, I'm working with Big Shift, but I also do freelancing work. Uh, Also, I'm a content creator. I like mainly on LinkedIn. I post a lot of stuff about front end things and like some advanced stuff that I learn about or I encounter. Uh, but yes, aside from that, I also have a blog where I write longer stuff, etc. So, what we'll be talking about in this session? Uh, First, there will be like just a few minutes about theoretical stuff, but I promise that it will be very quick, so you don't get bored. We'll talk like very briefly about what does accessibility and web accessibility actually means, and why is it important, uh, which is a part that I myself did not really like realize or understand until recently, to be honest. Then we will jump into the practical part and we'll start working on the uh, application. We will learn how to identify the accessibility issues. Then we'll learn how to fix them one by one. Uh, I'll try to like the problems that we'll be working on. I'll try to make them uh, like varied so that we see different uh, types of problems and issues uh, to learn as much new stuff as possible. Uh, so yeah, let's begin. Uh, First thing first, the web is for everyone. When the web like was initially created, its main goal was that it was aimed for everyone, regardless of their location, gender, age, language, or whatever. The web was created to allow people from any place to communicate and interact with each other. It was meant to remove the barriers of communication and interaction that people in the physical world used to suffer from. So what does web accessibility actually means? Web accessibility means that a website is designed and developed so that any person is able to use it without any like barriers or restrictions. And the word use might be a little bit too vague. So when we say use, we actually mean perceive, see, hear, etc., understand, navigate, interact, and contribute to the web. So why is accessibility important in the first place? And why is it important for us here at BOLT.FUN? Well, there are a lot of reasons for that. The first one is, and this is the main one, that there are a bigger number of people who suffer from some kind of disability than what you would initially think. Uh, when we say the word disabled person, the first thing that comes to our mind is someone on a wheelchair, maybe, or someone with a like with one arm or with one leg, or someone blind or something like that. But in reality, the like the majority of people who suffer from disability, their disability is usually not visible to the outside, not very visible to someone who doesn't know them. There is an image that is very nice, I think. It says, as you can see, some disabilities look like this, what you would initially think, but most disabilities actually look like normal to you. According to a study done by WHO, around 15% of people uh, of the world's population suffer from some form of disability. That's around 1 billion people. Much bigger number than what you would initially think, right? Um because what does the word disability actually means? There are many different forms of disabilities that are not visible, like color blindness, dyslexia, even like temporal or situational cases can be considered a form of disability. For example, someone using his mobile phone, uh, it's a small screen, and it's not a very easy experience as if he was on a bigger screen like his PC. Someone on a bad internet connection, someone who has a broken arm. This is a temporal disability. Someone who usually uses glasses, but his glasses are lost right now, or his glasses is not with him. Someone sitting in a loud environment. Someone sitting in a bright environment. Older people. Uh, so yeah, like as you can see, there are many cases that where the experience is harder for the person, and even though it's not a physical or permanent case. So that's why, in general, accessibility is not only for physically permanently disabled people, it's for everyone. And a better a better accessible website usually results in an experience that is better for everyone. Um, Also, it's becoming a legal requirement in some countries. Recently, some famous websites have been sued and fined big amounts of money because they are not accessible. So they are excluding uh, a percentage of their users. And for specific kinds of websites, it's becoming a legal requirement that your website has to be accessible. Uh, it also usually results in a better SEO because crawling engine are better able to read your website and understand the meaning of different stuff on it if it's accessible. Uh, and usually when your website is accessible, it results in a better testability because testing frameworks like are trying to make you go the accessible route. So they provide like better ways to write tests if your website is accessible. And finally, it's the ethical and right thing to do. Like aside from legal stuff and better SEO and etc. Uh, Like, it doesn't make sense to say that just because I don't suffer from this kind of disability, I should not care about people who suffer from it, right? Like, if I currently can see colors fine, then I don't care about people who cannot see colors or something like that. These kind of people, like, already face much more challenges than what we normally don't think about. So, like we don't need to add even more challenges for them when they are trying to use our website. We should like make our website accessible and usable by them so that like they don't feel excluded or something like that. Um, so yeah, this is an example of how someone with red-green color blindness sees a traffic light. And yeah, I haven't talked about dyslexia yet, but dyslexia simply it's a disorder that affects your reading abilities, and like it doesn't affect how you see text, but it affects usually how you are able, how your brain uh, perceive the text. So it affects your learning speed and your understanding of what you are reading. Uh, a lot of very famous and successful people suffer from dyslexia because, by the way, dyslexia is a very common uh, like issue. I think, 1 out of 5 persons suffer from dyslexia. So people like Albert Einstein, uh, Winston Churchill, Walt Disney, Agatha Christie. These are all people who suffered from dyslexia, and they still. Uh, I think most of us did not know that. Okay, so I think the theoretical part is done now. I hope you haven't slept yet, but now comes the fun part, the practical section. So, what we will be doing here? As I said, the application that we'll be working on is a production application. It has been in production for about 1.5 years now. It's not totally inaccessible, like totally, but we did not really, when we started this working on this project, accessibility was not one of main concerns. But recently we realized that nope, we should actually focus more on accessibility, and it's much more important than what we were uh, initially thinking. So yeah, we decided to make the website accessible and fix as much accessibility issues as we can. Uh, so the two main things that when you talk about making a website accessible, the two main things you focus on are keyboard navigation and screen readers navigation issues. And also there are the design parts of things, like colors are easily visible, font sizes can be like zoomed in and out, but these are already fixed in our case. Uh, so we will focus on keyboard navigation and screen readers. For people who don't know or are wondering what does screen reader mean, it's basically a software that is able to read to you uh, what's on your computer screen or in your browser tab or whatever. It can like read it as a speech audio, or maybe if you are someone who cannot see nor hear, so it uses braille display. There are a lot of things, a lot of ways about how you can use a screen reader. Um, Screen readers are usually used by people who are either blind or have low vision, because like not all people are blind, but eh, a lot of people suffer from low vision, especially older people. So screen readers are very helpful for them. It's also used when multitasking. So maybe you are driving your car and you have a website open reading an article, or maybe you are cooking something and your screen reader is reading a news website or something like that. It's also used by people with dyslexia because, as we said, they have a problem with seeing and processing text. So hearing something is usually much more easier for them to deal with. Keyboard navigation, it's important for people with motor disabilities. So any kind of movement issue, uh, broken arm, uh, tremors, because maybe they are either they have some kind of illness, or maybe they are older people. Um, Someone typing, when you are typing on keyboard, you are usually using both hands. So if you just need to, for example, move from one form field to the next, you'd prefer to be able to just like click the tab key instead of moving one of your hands to the mouse, navigating, clicking on another form field, then moving your hand again to the keyboard. This might sound like not a very important thing, but no, I think it really affects the user experience. And finally, someone lazy like me, maybe like I tend to eat while I am using my computer, so I usually have one hand that is doing the eating stuff and only one hand that I can use for uh, navigating. So if I can only use the keyboard, it's much easier for me than if I have to use one hand to both the keyboard and mouse. Okay, let's jump now to the practical part. I think we are done with the slides here. So here is the project that we'll be working on. It's running on the local host 3030. Let's call this localhost. Let's first see what is the project, what is the application. Then we'll start fixing that. So this application, it's not a small application, like it has many different sections and features, but we'll focus on a specific few main parts. Uh, this project is like, it's called BOLT.FUN. It's a platform for developers who are working on technologies related to Bitcoin, Nostr, or Lightning. Maybe you haven't heard about that before, but I think it's fine. Like you can follow along. There are, as I said, several sections. The main one here is a feed where developers can post stories and updates about their work or what they are doing. Um, One other main part is the projects part, where developers can like put their project so that other developers can see it, view it, uh, and like share ideas with other makers in the community. Uh, there, like each user also has a profile, an extensive profile where they can like add a lot of stuff about themselves, their roles, what they are working on, etc. So yeah, and there are some other like uh, features and parts, but I think these are the ones that we'll be focusing on mainly. So the first thing is we're going to identify some issues. We will start with keyboard navigation stuff. Let's go to the projects maybe page or the feed page. Mm, I think both are fine. Let's start with the projects page. So refresh the page. Okay. When we want like when we say keyboard navigation, what does it usually mean? It means that the user is able to use and interact with the website completely without needing to use his mouse. That is usually done using the tab key and shift tab key and enter space. Uh, so, like to see if our website is keyboard navigatable or not, let's tab a little bit, use the tab key, and see if we can navigate around and interact with the stuff that we are supposed to interact with. So I press the tab key. You see there is maybe it's not very clear, but there is a focus ring around this button. I click tab again, it's here. Now it's focusing on these elements. Now I don't see the focus. This is one issue. The focus is disappeared. I'm clicking tab again. Now it appeared again here on this link. Now it's focusing on the project cards. Now if I click here space, it was supposed to open the card, but currently it's not opening, so this is another issue that we will see. Okay, tab again, tab. Now the focus disappeared again for some reason. Tab, it appeared again here. Okay, so it's not completely broken, the keyboard navigation on this page, but it's not very good. The first thing is that when we started tabbing, the tab started from this button, not from the navigation bar for some reason. It was supposed to start from here, right? The first element on the page should be the first element to be focused, but it started from here. Also, as we saw, the focus navigation is disappearing here, and yeah, here it's not like using the space key is not doing anything. So the first issue that the focus like disappeared here, it did not start with the nav bar, is because there is actually a component that is currently hidden, which is a search component, but like it only appears in specific cases. So let's see the component itself. It's just a form with an input element, but it has an autofocus property on it. This is a problem that you should not put focus on elements that are off screen, which is in our case this search component. So the search component is off screen and it's not even there in all the pages. So autofocus should be on, like, focus should only be brought to this element when it's visible to the user. When the user click on open search button, for example, and the search button search input appears, only then we should put focus on that. We should not autofocus on it automatically. Save. Okay, now if we refresh the page to reset where the focus is, now if we click tab, you see that now the tabbing started from the navigation. Okay, now uh, events, by the way, is a menu. If we click space, you see it has a, like, a drop down menu. This is a component that is like pre-built using React menu. That's why, like, currently I'm navigating around with the mouse, sorry, with the arrow keys instead of the tab. That's one of the benefits of using an existing component library, because these kind of libraries usually provide you with accessible components, whereas if I had to build this drop-down component myself, I had to make this accessibility things uh, myself, which is not easy all the times. Also, this avatar is the same thing. It's a React menu component. Okay. Now, the next issue we saw is that the focus is disappearing here after we reach the final element. When you click tab, the focus is disappearing for a little bit. Tab again, it's still not appearing. Tab a third time, it's here. Now the reason this is happening because we actually have two buttons here for the slider, left and right, that only appear when you hover on this component. But actually the focus is being brought on them. So if the focus is on them but you are not hovering, you will not see that where is the hover. The way we can fix this is two ways actually. One of them, either we can, let's go to the element itself, categories. Here are the two left and right buttons. Um, as you can see, they have initially an opacity of 0, but when you are hovering on their parent component, it's opacity 100. So the way we can fix such cases is, like, we have hidden elements that only appear when the user hovers somewhere, is either we make them also appear when the user focus on them, or we make the tab key skips them completely, so that when the user click tab on, and he is on the last element here, the focus does not move to these buttons. It immediately jump to whatever other visible thing is, which is in this case this link. Okay, so in this case, let's make the tabbing skip them. The way we can do that is by adding a property tab index -1. Tab index -1, it means that this element is focusable, but it's out of the tabbing order. Okay, so if we now try that again, tab, 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 tab. Now we are on the final element. If I click now tab, as you can see, the focus jumped immediately to this double arrow link. Okay, now this is another slider that has the exact same problem. There are these buttons that do not appear unless you are hovering over them, but the focus actually moves on them. So let's fix them the other way. Let's make them appear not only when the parent is hovered, but also when they are focused. So here they are. As you can see, they also have an opacity of 0 and group hover opacity 100. So we can add another class to them that when they are focused, I also want the opacity to be 100. So let's try that out. Now you can see the focus is on this button. The focus is now on this button. And it moves to the next elements. Okay, cool. So far so good, I think. Now we said that when we click space, we are supposed to open the dialog. Like when we click enter, the model or dialog appears, escape, it closes. But we also are supposed, like buttons are also supposed to be, like when you click space on them, they are also supposed to trigger their action. But currently that's not the case. So why is that? Let's go to the component of this project card and see. The component is project card mini, I believe. Yeah. Okay. So the reason for that is because this is actually a div, and it has a role of button and a tab index of, like, I'll remove these two properties and consider that it's a div with an on-click handler. A div with its on-click handler, it's not even like, let's try to focus on them again. Now the focus is here. If I click tab again, the focus immediately jumped to this button. It skipped all the project cards. As you can see, I'm not able to focus on any of the projects card. That's because div by default are not supposed to be clickable elements. Divs do not get focused, are not tabbable by default, but they are working because we can add on-click event handlers on them. So that's why when you click on them, some action is triggered. However, this is not something that you should do. In 95% of the cases, when you want an element to be clickable, you should use an HTML clickable element, which is, for example, a button or link, most of the cases. You should try to avoid using an HTML element that is not natively clickable. Now, when we added the role button to this div element and we put tab index 0, tab index 0 means that this element should be included in the tabbing order or tabbing tree. That's why when we added these two properties, we became able to focus on them. But like actually this way we are recreating an HTML button element using a div. So why not, like, and also I have this on key down handler that checks to see if I click the enter key, it triggers the action. That's why it was working on enter and not space. Like, because also by default it wouldn't have this listener, so even the enter key would not have worked. So the right way to do this is to remove these properties and just make it a button element. And because a button element by default takes only the minimum needed space, I just want to add this width full class. Okay, save, go back. Now if I click tab, you see the focus is brought in the correct way. Now if I click space, the model opened without any issues. Escape, I click enter, it also opened again. Okay, so that's what you should most of the times do. Clickable element, use a button or link. Okay, what else? Let's move to the screen, to mobile screen. See if we have issues here. Ignore these warnings. So here we are on the mobile screen. We have the nav bar in a hamburger menu. If we click tab here, enter, it opens. Let's try like to see how it currently is working. When I click X, it closes. Okay. Uh, it seems to be working fine, but there is like issue I notice here is that when we are clicking enter on the key, like it's focused right now, right? I click enter, the focus disappears. The reason for that is, let's go check the component for that and see why that might be happening. Okay, here is the component. I have a state, drawer is open or not, like whether this navigation menu is open or not. If it's not open, I am showing this icon button with this icon. If it is open, I'm showing another icon button with a close. So actually, the focus initially is on this icon button. But when I click enter, the state changes and this icon button gets unmounted and this other icon button gets mounted in, in its place. However, when this button is unmounted, the focus, which was on this button, does not know where it should go next, so it disappears. The focus gets reset to the first element on the page. The way we can fix this is actually by not having two buttons, instead by making them one button and changing only the icon depending on the state of drawer open, true, false. So we can just, I think, move this down here and move this up here. And is drawer not open? We add another case, not here, here, and put this stuff. Mm, okay, and let me just right now remove these because we don't need them at the moment. Open button, icon button, yeah. Mm. Now on toggle, it should do like that. Let's just test that out. Click, click. Now, as you can see, when we click on it, the focus, because we are not unmounting or removing the button from the DOM tree, we are just changing the icon, the focus stays on the component. Okay, now that looks nice. I think that's almost everything on this page. Let's move to, okay, should we move to the next page and fix keyboard navigation issues there, or should we work on screen readers issues here? Okay, let's. Okay, I prefer to keep the screen readers issue to the last, because there are tons of stuff and keyboard navigation issues should be done soon. The other page that we'll be working on is the feed page, where we show the posts of makers. So let's try also here to start tabbing on this page and see if there is any navigation issues here. Tab, 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 tab. Okay, now as you can see, the focus is on this close button. If I tap again, it's on these links. Tap on this link. Okay, now we see the first issue. Maybe it's not a very like big issue, but like this avatar is a link and the name of this person is also a link, but they like both of these links go to the same place. uh, for someone using mouse, yeah, it makes sense that clicking either here or here should take me to the profile, but for someone using keyboard, having like to tap two times for the same thing, it makes the experience worse. So we should try to like minimize the number of tabs needed to perform any kind of action. So we need to fix that. Tab again the title of the article. Tab again these tags because they are clickable. Tab again this voting button. Tab again. Okay. Now the focus is on the different kinds. Okay, so now we notice that there is another issue, that the tab has not moved to these elements at all. Like, what if I want to go to the right story button? You saw that, like, we started tabbing from here, but the focus moved on the navigation, and then it immediately jumped to the postcards here. And if I like tap more, okay, this is an infinite scrolling page. So like as you tap more, new articles will be loaded and will appear here. So like you will keep tabbing and you will never be able to come to these sidebar sections. So let's fix that. Let's go to the page, feed page that contains these components and see what the issue might be. So here is the page container. It uses grid to CSS grid to lay out the different components. Now, the reason why this was not working, how we are expecting it to be, this is the content, the main content div container. Okay, this div is the sort by, which is these two buttons. And here is like where the title appears. Here is the element of the aside, the first aside filters, which contain this button and these links. And this is the other aside, which contain these trending links, trending article links, and this advertisement component. So the reason why the focus was not moving to these two sections is because the tab is the tabbing order depends on the order of HTML elements appearance on the page. So as you can see here, the content, the HTML content container appears before the aside container. So that's why it will try to move to the end of this container before moving here or here. Although visually they like this element appears before that, but we are manipulating that using grid. So but the tab order does not see the CSS appearance. It only depends on the HTML order. So the way that we can fix this is actually by putting this element before this HTML container before this HTML container. So we just need to cut, paste, save that. Okay, now if we focus, now focus is in the navigation bar. Tab again. Now, as you can see, the focus on is on this button. Now, button, link. When it finishes this component, it moves back here to this to the main content. Okay, now you might also want to put uh, by the way, the visual appearance did not change because, as I said, I'm using CSS grid, so that's why when you use CSS grid, it does not really care about their HTML order because you change that manually in CSS code. You might also want to put, maybe because this will be just a few links, maybe you also want to put the HTML container for this before the main content. But I think it's fine for now. Like, it's up to you. Okay. And this other small issue that we have duplicate links here, we can fix it by going to, I think it was post header component, postcard header. Yeah, this one. As you can see, there is a link on the avatar, and a link on the project name, link on the avatar, and link on the person name. So what we can do is here we can, if we want to keep the link, we can just make it skip the tabbing order by using tab index -1. Let's see if that works. Okay, as you can see now the focus is on this element. When we click tab again, it skips the focus on the avatar component. It immediately jumps to focus on the name link. Okay, what else do we have here? I think that should be everything for keyboard navigation on this page. Yes. Okay, while we are here, we can maybe fix another issue. So let's refresh the page and see something. When we start tabbing, the first element that the focus is on is this, the first element in the navigation, in the nav bar, right? So if I want to, like, okay, maybe I want to navigate to a different page, but maybe I just want to go to the articles and start scrolling through them, right? Currently, what I need to do is to keep tabbing on all the elements before the main content. Then right now I'm on the main content. But like if each time I open the page I need to navigate through a lot of links, and actually like in our case it's not even that many of links. Maybe on other websites there will be a lot more links before the main content. So like if I have to each time tab through all the elements before moving to the main content, it will become a little bit tedious. So there is a better way to do that, which is using skip links. Skip links are basically a link that is initially hidden, but it's usually the first thing focusable on a page. Let's just see a quick example. Let's go, for example, on Google and type hello. Now, if I click tab, you see that the focus is brought on a skip to main content link that was not visible before. If I click on it, you can see the focus is on the first focusable element in the main content. However, if I did not focus on the main, if I did not use this skip link, as you can see, I would have to tab through this, this, all these links before arriving at the main content. So let's add a skip link to this page. It should be very simple. Let's go to the feed page. Skip link could be just a simple href. They need a hashtag ID of some element, which in our case, our main element has an ID of content. So let's put an href of content and skip to main content, for example. Okay, now you can see that here is the element, but actually it appeared after the navigation bar. That's because the navigation bar is always the first element on the page, and there is like no way to add an element here before the navigation. The way we can fix that is by using like in React they are called portal. Uh, Portal basically allows you to mount some element in different tree position than here. What I mean by this is that if we inspect quickly the application, you will see that our whole application is mounted under this div, which has an ID of app. And as you can see, there is already another div element to justify. This is a this will be used by the notification libraries that I'm using. So this notification library will append notifications to this element so that they will always appear on top of my normal application content because it comes afterward, right? So we can do a similar thing to any kind of stuff that we want to appear on, like in a place different than its virtual DOM position. Uh, the way we can do that, as I said, is using Portal. So I have a component called Portal. Uh, it's not a React component. It's a component I created. Basically, just you use this function React DOM.create portal, and you supply, like, you give it the children that you want to mount and the container element that has that you want to mount it to. So for example, here in my case, I can create an ID and call it skip link. Now you would and put this link inside it. Let's see now how will this be different. Okay, refresh. Okay, so as you can see here in the inspect menu, we have this skip link now element, which contains this, but it's actually at the bottom of the page now. It's appeared again. So what we need to do is just make this to give it a fixed position. We said that we want the skip link to be to not appear to the user unless he clicks tab and the focus is brought on it. So let's initially give it a position fixed, top 0, left 0, or maybe 16 to give it some offset. And let's to hide it, let's just do a translate y full, but on the negative side. Okay. When it's focused, when it has focus, I want to have it translate y0. Let's test that out. I'm not sure if it's focused or not here right now. Okay, let me try to put focus. Yeah, well, okay, it's here, but the focus class is not doing anything, it seems. Let me see if I put focus. Okay, let me try to remove this, see if it's... Oh, it's not appearing at all. I think it's an issue with the Z index because let's give it a Z index of 10, or let's give it a higher Z index, because I think the nav bar has a very high Z index. Oh, it's 2010. I don't know where that number came from. Ah, okay, now it's visible. So it was a problem with the Z index. Let's return translate stuff, translate y full, put on the negative, and when there is focus on the element, I want to translate y to be reset. Let's see if that's working. Um, Refresh. Hmm, seems to be still not working for some reason. Focus. Hmm. Yeah, I know the issue because like here, the portal, it's like if we give it an ID of an element that does not exist, a div element, it will append it at the end of the body. But what we actually want is to have the skip links appear before our application uh, root div. So what we should do here is go to the index.html and here create a div with skip link and go back here, sorry, skip links. Now, if it finds an element with this ID, it will not create it. It will just like use it immediately. So, okay, now it's working. As you see, we click the tab key, and the first thing that was brought to focus is the skip to main content. If I click enter on it, you can see now the focus skipped all the navigation links, and now it's immediately on the content and article. If you like, as you saw, it's not very apparent here, so maybe you just want to like give it some uh, more visual uh, maybe primary, some padding maybe, and text white, font bold, and I think that's a lot of padding. Yeah, I think that should be enough. Yeah, okay. So it should be clear enough. Now, when the user refresh, let's test that out. Tab, it's the first thing. When you tab again, it disappears. Okay, great. We can do that, by the way, on all the pages, but maybe there are pages where like for example here in this page, because there are a lot of links on this sidebar, maybe it makes sense, but maybe here like there are only 5 links, but like it's not a problem if you want to put a skip link on each page. It's totally fine. So up to you. Okay, so while we are back to this page, actually now I think there are another nice improvement that we can do here is to, let's see the issue. Let's navigate to one of the sliders down below. Now, the focus is right on this element, right? Imagine I want to open this element. How can I do that? Well, or this or whatever, like something not from the first elements. Currently, what I need to do is to click tab, and tap on all the elements in each category until I reach the element that I want. And like imagine if it's something even down below, I'll need maybe to tap 100 times to reach it. That's not optimal at all, and it probably should be improved. So what would a better experience look like? Uh, let's think about that. The usual thing is uh, we can treat each project's row as one tabbable component. And if you want to tab through the projects in each row, you can use the arrow keys instead of the tab key. What I mean by this is that ideally, if I am here, I click tab, 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 maybe even for this slider too. But let's just like currently, let's just do it on the projects slider. So if I'm here, if I click tab, okay, now the focus is on this project slider. But if I click tab again, I would like the focus, instead of moving to the next element here in the same row, I'd like the focus to move to the next project row immediately, like this one. And if I want to move here, I would like to use the arrow keys. Okay, so this way, if I want to go to a project on this row, I would click tab, I would move here, tab again, tab, tab, then right. I would need a lot less tabs to achieve whatever I want. Okay, so how can we achieve that? Uh, for this, there is a technique called roving tab index, uh, which aims to like achieve exactly that. The way you can do that is by making all the elements inside what you want to treat as a single tabbable component. You can give all the elements a tab index of -1 and only one element of those a tab index of 0. What this would do is that when you have focus on an element before this component and you click tab, the focus would only move to one element. And if you click tab again, all the other, for example, projects in this case has a tab index of -1. So if you click tab again, the focus will not move to any other project of them. It will move to the next stuff that comes after them, whatever it is. Okay, but how can we move between these projects in the same component? Well, if the user click right or left, we can change the tab index value on the element. For example, if the user click right, what I will do is I will change the tab index of the element right to the currently focused element and make it, instead of -1, make it 0. And make the currently focused element, instead of tab index 0, make it -1. This would like, let's see it in action. And like, fortunately, you do not need to implement this yourself. You can do that, it's not very hard, but there are a few edge cases. So that's why you can use a tab, a cool library that implements that for you. It's called React Roving Tab Index. Let's install it and see how we can use that. So while it's installing, you'll see here in their users section, you need to use this library. You need to put a tab index provider around the component, in our case, the project's row. And for each single component, like a button or whatever it is, we need to use this hook that returns a couple of tab index value, focused value, handle key down. Let's see it in action. It would be easier to do that. So first, let's go to the projects row and add this provider. Let's import it here. Okay. So add the provider, and then for each element that we want to be tabbable using the arrow keys, in our case it's the project card mini, we need to go here and basically do whatever they are doing here. So what they are doing is, first thing, they are creating a ref and sending it to this use roving tab index hook. Use roving tab index hooks. Actually, it takes 3 arguments, but in our case, only 2 is needed. The first one is a reference to the element that we want to be like focus or unfocus. In our case, it's the button. So let's assign it here too. And the second argument is whether it is disabled or not. In our case, it will always be false, but in some cases, maybe you want it to be disabled, but still flexible. And it returns these 3 values: tab index, and focused, and handle key down, and handle click, which you need to put them as is on the element itself. However, in our case, we don't need disable. In our case, we already have an on-click handler. So what we need to do is to use this here. And I think we can remove this one. This one was used because it was a div element, but I think now it doesn't need to. We'll see. Okay. And this line is just, as the name says, you use focus effect. Whenever the element that should be focusable changes, this effect will automatically focus that for you. But you can do that manually. But why? So save. Let's test if it's working now. Let's click here. Now the focus is on the double arrow link tab. Now the focus is on here. If I click tab again, you see the focus immediately jumped to the slider arrow keys, tab, tab, and it's here. Now if I click, however, the right key and left key, it's moving left and right. So as you can see now, I'm able to much more easily navigate to a different section. And actually, I think like even the left and arrow keys, we should skip them because they don't make sense to use them when you can using left and right key. But I think it's fine for now. But yes, that's how it's working. Now if we just click inspect to see how this is working under the hood and inspect here. Now where is it? Yeah, as you can see here, now the tab index for this button is 0. If I click right, you see it has become -1, and the element after it, the tab index 0. Now the third element, its tab index is -1. If I click right again, here, where is the focus? Yes, right. As you can see, they have switched the value. It's now 0, and this one is -1. If you want to learn more about tab index, by the way, like you can read here. This is a like they give a nice background, or you can like there is a tab tutorial roving tab index Google. Yeah, this video. It's a very nice one that explains it with like it explains under the hood how you can implement it yourself very simply. So yeah, check that out if you want. Okay, so now that we have got this working, what else? What else? Yeah, I think that's almost everything for keyboard navigation. I think we can now jump to the screen reader part. Okay, screen reader part. So for screen readers, you can use any screen reader you like. One nice one is NVDA. That's the one I'm using. It's free and for Windows. There are other screen readers, of course. Now, most screen readers work in a similar way. However, there are sometimes a few minor differences in what they will say, or like similar to how different browsers behave in specific cases differently. It's the same case with screen readers. Uh, but yeah, like 90% of this stuff, it's almost the same. So let me run my screen reader.
Number build on Bitcoin. Clickable navigation.
Okay, I I think you should now be able to hear it. So if
List
we
with 4 items projects visited link. Hangout Live visited link. Events bullet menu button collapsed sub menu.
Okay, so the way we test the screen reader is this very similar to the keyboard navigation. We try to like tab on different stuff and see whether if we are only able to hear what the screen reader is saying, are we able to understand where we are and how we can navigate more?
Guide visited app
So for example,
submit your project visited link.
symbol buttons are simple, so they are fine.
Clickable wrapped gift miscellaneous / other button.
Okay, so now we notice a problem. Now let's try to focus on,
Performing arts social button.
as you have probably heard, it said performing arts social button. Where did this performing arts come from? Let's try another one.
Credit card wallet button.
Credit card wallet button. I think you already guessed it. Yes, it's
Credit
the
card.
peace emoji.
High voltage.
Screen reader, like
High
each
voltage.
emoji has a name behind it. Screen readers will say the names, so credit card. But for emoji, most of the times they make sense for the sighted user because yeah, they give a better like visual experience. But for unsighted users, most of the time it doesn't make sense to say credit card wallet or lightning bolt shock the
Shock
web.
the web high volt. Money with wings.
Money with wings finance.
Finance.
So the like the right way to do that is usually to
Money
hide
with wings.
this emoji.
Videos row 1 OB.
So to
Project
do
card
that,
mini.t. Project card
let's go to the
A E G.
categories
Project card mini.tsx
there.
makers.
As you can see, category icon is here. The way we can hide it from screen readers is simple. We
N.
can um,
Speech mode off. Speech mode beeps. Speech mode off.
put it in a span, and this span there is a property called aria hidden. Now, when you put aria hidden, what it means basically is that this element will still remain visible to the normal sighted user. However, for screen readers, it will treat it as if it's not there. So right now,
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk.
if we try that again,
Social button.
social button.
Wallet button.
As you can
Shock
see
the
now,
finance
it's
button.
ignoring the emoji completely.
Media and news button.
Nice.
Hottest
Let's,
visited link heading level 3.
okay, so this
Shock
is
the
our
web
number one.
high voltage.
It's saying visited link, but not, this is, for someone's hearing that, it does not know what it means. Let's,
Clickable silicon exchange graphic silicon exchange 0 button. Grower
okay,
grower
we also
wallet.
can see that
Grower
projects
microfinance protocol.
are not pronounced correctly.
Button 11 link heading level 3.
Uh-huh. So we need
Silicon
to fix
exchange.
this link and to fix this link.
Zeus.
Let's
Category
go to the projects row and
CT.
see what is the problem.
Categories.tsx makers.bolt. The editor
Now,
is not accessible. Speech mode off.
this is the double arrow key. What it is saying usually is like if you have an image and you don't have any text inside it to say, it usually either pronounce the, if it's an image, it might pronounce the alt value. If there is no alt value, it will pronounce the source value. So to fix that, you like the recommended way to do that is to add an ARIA label on the link, and you should like explain what this button is supposed to do. So for example, here it like when you click on this, for example, or this, it will open this category in its own page. So here it will open the all the hottest projects page. Uh, so what you can do is, for example, give the area label value of see all, and even better, like see all of what. Even better if you can say see all and this category title see all projects, maybe. So if we try now to focus on that,
speech mode beeps, speech mode talk. Clickable, see all object projects visited link heading level 3.
oh yeah,
Projects row.tsxmakers.bolt.fun Visual Studio.
title is an HTML element. It's not a React node. It's not a string. So I think we'll need to go with see all projects, or we'll have to find a way to like extract only the text. But I think
Number build on Bitcoin. See all projects visited link heading level 3.
I think
Projects
that's
row.tsxmakers.bolt.fun
for
Visual
now.
Studio Code.
Uh,
Projects row.tsxmakers.bolt.
okay.
Number build on
So the
Bitcoin
other
Google
thing
Chrome MTG. Speech mode off.
is what the screen reader says when it focuses on the uh, project card. So currently,
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk button. Clickable graphic. EU. Button. Clickable Zeus graphic Zeus wallet 121.1K button.
currently what it is doing, it's
Zeus.
pronouncing all the
Zeus.
content inside
Zeus
this button.
wallet.
So if
Projects
we go to
row.tsx
the
speech mode off.
project card, we will see what is the content. First, we have an image element. It's spelling the alt. Currently, I'm putting the project.title value inside the alt, which is not correct because it's like the title itself exists there. So there is no need to provide both the alt and the title. So what we can do is provide an empty string to the alt. This will tell the screen reader that this image is only decorative. Then we have the project title itself. We have also the category. If we want, like, if we want to spell it, we can do so. If we don't want to spell it, if we, for example, it depends on what we want. If we want the screen reader to only say the name of the project, we can put aria hidden here, if that's what we want. Maybe, no, we still want the category to be pronounced, then we can leave it as it is. Maybe we want the screen reader to say category, then the category itself. So the way we can do that is we can say aria label category and put this here. And finally, we have the number of votes that the project has. Yeah, it's also up to you whether you want to say total votes and give it this number, or if you want to hide it completely from screen reader, it's up to you. Let's hide it for now. And
Speech mode talk. See clickable Zeus wallet button.
okay, now it's only saying Zeus wallet.
Project card
By the way, it
mini.tsxmakers.
was supposed to say category, I think.
Number build on Bitcoin document. Clickable Silicon Exchange button.
Let's refresh just to
Bolt.fun.
make sure.
Clickable navigate. See clickable Zeus wallet button. Wall
Hmm,
menu selected. Number alert dev tools is docked to text body 5 text grade aria label equal category wallet.
okay, that's weird. I think. Oh, or maybe because
Category
area label,
aria label
like
class
it's spelling
high
this,
flex
but it
shrink
does
0
not.
double wallet
I
project
think the way
card
we should do
mini.t
that here is by doing this.
n dot the editor e y colon space
And
the
just
editor
hide
is not
it
n
visually.
b n space the number build on Bitcoin Google Chrome MTG.
So,
See all clickable Zeus category wallet button.
okay. Now it's working as expected. So we added this.
Project
Now I
card
think the
mini.tsx
area label did not work
makers.bolt.fun.
in
Speech
this
mode
case
off.
because it was like using the content of this button, not the area label of the element within this button. So that's why we had to move the category text like to put it actually in the content, but just hide it visually. Uh, this class, by the way, is R only. It's abbreviation for screen reader only. It does exactly the opposite of ARIA hidden. ARIA hidden uh, keeps the element visually visible, but it hides it from screen reader. SR only class does the opposite. It keeps the element visible to screen readers, but hides it from like the visible user. As you can see here, the what it uses is position absolute with 1 pixel, padding 0, overflow hidden, and etc. So basically hiding it visually. Okay, so what else? Um, I think for this page, that's almost everything. Uh, let's go back to the feed page, see if there are any stuff here that could be improved.
Speech mode talk. List with 4 items. Do you Hangout live visited link. Events guide visit avatar graphic menu button collapse sub menu.
Uh-huh. Now, as you've heard, it said avatar, collapsed menu, and etc. Avatar is, it said that
Do you
because
need
this
avatar?
image, let's just look at the
A.
component.
Project card
It
mini.t.
has an alt value of avatar, which should not be the case actually. Like, what does avatar mean? It doesn't mean anything. So I think we should hide that instead. Um, what we can
Category
do is go to the
V
nav desktop
D NAV no A
and
R imp less avatar src. The editor is not
provide
space
an
L.
alt that
The
actually
editor
has
is
a
not
meaning.
accessible at this time. Speech mode off.
So for example, this button, it's supposed to be profile or my profile. So we should give it a my profile label, my profile alt.
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode my profile graphic menu button collapse sub menu.
Mhm. No, it said my profile.
You're entering the
The
most
the
fun
reason
community. Speech
the
mode
reason
off.
it said menu and submenu is because, as I said, this is uh, a React menu component, so it like by default provides a bunch of accessible labels to like let the screen readers know that this element is a menu. It can be expanded. Currently, it's not. When you click on it, the expanded change state changes, etc. So that's why it's a good idea to use like pre-made components.
Speech mode talk.
Okay,
Search
let's
edit
move
blank.
more.
Complementary landmark write a story visited link. See all button visited link.
Now here, see all button, it doesn't make much
See all.
sense. Like the maybe it make sense for a user who
Label
sees
topics.
like
Label
who
topics.
is saying topics and beside it sees the see all. But for someone who is just like hearing see all, it makes more sense to like say explicitly what see all. So see all topics. We can add that.
List with 10 items 100 points number 100 days of Bitcoin link. Control knobs number neural link.
Now here the case is like
Control
also
knobs. Control knobs.
spelling the emoji. So we also want to hide that, but I will not do that because I already did that, just not to waste time. Uh,
Walk button.
okay, now it's saying
You're
only
entering the
button.
most fun
The reason
community of
for
builders
that
and
is
designers in
because
Bitcoin and Nostr. Speech mode off.
it's, I think, simple because we have this icon button and it contains an icon without any label. So like the way to fix that is by providing an area label of close, or for example, in our case, this will like close this welcome message. So let's say hide welcome message. Makes more sense. Okay,
Speech mode talk. Hide welcome message. Alien monster complete your maker profile get found by the right people.
we should hide
Alien
this part.
complete Lana visited link. Design internship progress logs week 12 day 1 heading level 2 link. Number meta visited link. 0 button.
Now, it
0.
should not say zero button because zero button does
Join
not
the
mean anything.
BOLT.FUN
It should
community
say, for
0.
example, vote, number of total votes, zero. And we can do that using a real label also.
Lana visited design. It's
Okay,
Tomek.
I
I
think
continued
that's
working on the
everything of this
CBDC
page.
tracker.
Let's go to a
You're
more
entering the most fun
a different
community of
page.
speech mode beeps.
Let's go to my settings page where I am able to uh, like update my profile info. Here there are a couple of new things that we can do. So the first thing is let's try keyboard navigation. Tap, 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 whatever. It's tabbing between the inputs. Here, this is a image upload input, but I'm not able to tap to it. Now, when I click the space, it opened, but I did not see any kind of focus. When you hover, you see there is a button. When I click, it's not focused. So it's the same case as the buttons inside the slider. There is a hidden button for this image uploading component, but it only appears when I hover. So the way we should fix that is by also making it appear when it's focused. But I don't think there is any to do that because we already did that too. Okay, now the other thing is let's see how we can make a form uh, accessible, because making forms accessible is one of the very like most important things that you can do for on your website. If your form are not accessible, then your users will most likely not be able to perform whatever they need. So form accessibility actually has a lot of parts. Uh, Now keyboard navigation seems to be working fine. Let's switch the screen reader on to see if there is any issues.
Speech mode off.
Okay, so now I'm here. It's not saying. Oh, sorry.
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk.
Okay, no.
John Doe edit selected 0. Tell others a little bit about yourself edit multi-line blank.
Okay, so as you can see,
Backend developer edit has auto-complete blank.
it's saying the placeholder, then it's saying edit, then it's saying blank, which means the value int. So if I say here
F T E
front
D.
end,
Tell backend developer edit has auto-complete selected front end.
now it says backend developer, which is the placeholder value, then edit, then the actual current content. But this is not correct. Like, first of all, I don't want the
Tell others a little
placeholder
bit
to
about
be
yourself edit
said.
job title.
I want
Settings
the
job.
label to be spelled.
Speech mode off.
So the way we can do that is by, let's go to this form and see how it's structured. So here is the element. Here is the input for the name, for example, or bio. Uh, Here is the label, but actually it's not like connected to the input in any way. So that's why for screen reader it's not able to know that this label is for this input. The way we can do that, I think you've seen this before probably, is we should make this a label element and give it a property of HTML4 and give it a value which will be the ID that we put on this input. So here, let's for example give it an ID of name input and put this one here. Now what this will does is that screen readers, when they focus on this input, they will see that there is a label element that is labeling this input. Let's see that here. Sorry.
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk.
Okay.
Clickable. Name edit selected 038443. Tell others a little bit about yourself. Edit
So it
name.
said name edit, then it started saying the value. Let's
Basic
try it
profile
in the
info
bio
tab.ts.
the same way.
D
ID
equal tick I O
bio
dash
input, and here make it instead of
A.
a normal
The
email
editor is
variable,
not access space. T
and give
L.
it an
The editor is not
HTML4
accessible at the I O
bio
dash N T.
input.
Settings. Name bio edit multi-line. Tell others a little bit about yourself blank.
Okay, and if we put
A F
some value here,
T E. Name edit bio edit multi-line. Hello there.
as you can see now, it's saying the label, it's saying that it's an edit, then it's saying the value. It's not saying the placeholder, which should not be said in this case when there is a value. So yes, that's the right way that you should do that.
Name
You should
bio
always, like, all
name.
your inputs have a
Ju
label. If there is any instructions you want to say, for example,
look
uh,
your email is visible only to you. We will only use it to send you important updates or notices.
okay, so for example, imagine that we have
Location.
here a field that is
Location.
uh, phone number, and you have some instructions to say how the format should be. But if you put it as a placeholder, there are actually quite, like, a few problems of that. The first one is that screen reader will not say the placeholder text if there is any kind of value there. The second thing is, even for sighted users, when they start typing something, the placeholder will disappear. So this extra instructions will not be visible. So the way that you should do that is by
Location.
adding the whatever instruction you want, either
Location.
with the label or maybe
Location.
after it using some other. For example, let's try something. The
Your
email
email
here,
main
it has
landmark.
a validation.
johndoe at gmail.
If
3.
I write this
At
like that,
John edit has autocomplete settings doc. Your
as you can see, there is an inline error message. The screen reader did not say anything about that.
main
So
landmark. johndoe at
how
gmail.com edit
can we, like,
123,120. Speech mode off.
how can we make the screen reader let the user know that there is an error inside of this? Uh, One of the ways that we can do that, handle error messages, is by going um, email, for example, error. Instead of it being a normal p tag, there is another, like, we can add a property called role and give it a role of alert. What this will does is that whenever this element appear and the content inside it changes, screen reader will immediately say uh, what this role alert element has. Let's try that. Let's make it, let's put a valid email first to hide it. Then, yeah,
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk. johndoe at gmail.com edit has autocomplete blank. 3. Alert email must be a valid email. At johndoe edit has autocomplete blank. Settings
as you
email must
heard,
be a
it said
valid
email must be a valid.
email.
Okay, another thing we
Basic
can
pro
add
text body
is
6.
to,
Less
like,
p class name a dash a
aria
n a.
invalid.
On R the editor is not accessible at this tab. Less p class name equals
Now
text body 5. Speech mode off.
this property, it will, like, if aria invalid has property of true, when you focus on the element, input element itself, the screen reader will say that it's in an invalid status. So
Speech mode talk. Settings Google Chrome. johndoe at gmail.com edit invalid entry selected 123.
you've heard that it said invalid entry. That's because it's now got this invalid value. If we put a valid
M
value
G
here,
at F dot C M johndoe at gmail.com edit selected mtg at gmail.com.
you can see that the invalid uh, label is not there anymore.
M.
Okay,
Unselected.
so I think that should be like we should do that
Email.
for all
Your
the
locate.
elements. We should
Twitter. Speech mode off.
make all of them labeled, and we should add make all of the error messages here as alert messages. Uh, a thing that I'd like to show you is if we click save changes. Let me switch
Speech mode beeps. Speech mode talk. Location. There select
there.
bang. Alert saving changes. Save changes button. Save changes successfully. Save changes
As you've heard,
successfully.
it said alert saving changes and save changes successfully. That's because this notification component that you just saw also has an ARIA live, which is like very similar to role alert, uh, and like it does exactly the same thing that we did with the
Twitter
error
handle.
message. So yeah, that's why like immediately when it appeared, the screen reader pronounced that. Um, okay, what else? I think that should be almost everything. Like for form accessibility, there are a tons of stuff that you can do actually. Uh,
BOLT.FUN look. Navigation.
let's go to
Complement
this
new
form.
story title here. Edit multi-line blank.
This form is a little bit different than that
Speech
form.
mode off.
If you click publish and you have some invalid inputs, instead of the error being inline, it's like all the errors are done here in a separate container, error container. So the way that we can do that is by like making this accessible to screen readers is by doing exactly as the notification component does. Make this error component an ARIA live area, and whenever a new error appears inside of it, we like the screen reader will say that to the user. One extra like nice thing that you could do is to make these error messages instead of just normal text, you can make them a links, each of them link to the input element that has this error, and you bring the focus to the first error. So when the user clicks publish and there are errors, you bring the focus to the first element, which is a link. If he clicks enter, the focus is here, so he can fix that. Uh, okay, now a question you might have is how like would you tell the user that, for example, if the user fix all the issues, how would you tell the user that okay, there are no problems anymore? The way you can do that is by like having if all the error disappears, you can put a text saying form is now valid. Maybe if you don't want to show that to the user, make it as we saw, use the SR only class to hide it visually, but the screen reader will still see it, and it will announce the form is now valid if the user fix all the form problems or issues. And you can do that actually for each error by itself. Like you can have a message saying title field is now valid, tag field is now valid. Whenever an input has an error, then the user fixes that. Uh, it's up to you, but like as I said, the more accessible your forms are, the much. Actually, this will make them easier even for normal users, right? Like if the error appears here and you are able to click on it and it will immediately take you to whatever field has the error and things like that. That's even useful for sighted users. Um, Make sure to always make the instructions for fixing the errors as clear as possible. So, like usually it's not like enough to just say what the error is. Try to provide instructions on how to fix this error. Uh, but yes, I think that should be that for here. Uh, Anything interesting maybe that I should cover? Uh, yeah, like I think there are still some problems, but like we've covered the different kinds. Like I think most of the remaining problems will be like similar to what we fixed. So yeah, I think that should be it. Yes. Let's see. Uh, okay. Yeah, I think that's everything. Uh, oh, this was took longer than what I expected actually. But I hope that you learned a lot of new stuff from this. Uh, Accessibility is actually like really a rabbit hole. Like once you start going into that, you see that like there is always something extra that you can do. Like however, whatever you do, there is always something that you can do better. But like that doesn't mean that you should not do it at all. Do it as much as possible. Uh, there is so that I don't forget. There is a nice website, W3 area. It has a lot of patterns and components for like different common components that you might want to build. For example, if you want to build an alert element, it tells you how you can make it accessible. Let's go for a more complicated element like a dialog. It will tell you that a dialog, how keyboard interaction is supposed to be, what are the ARIA roles and states that would make it accessible for a screen reader, etc. So whenever you want to build a component, you should first always try to find an already made component that is accessible. Doesn't need to be styled, just accessible. I think for React there is a I think it was called Headless Tailwind. Yeah, Headless UI. This is unstyled components, but they are fully accessible. So that like you don't need to care about the accessibility part and the roles, etc. Just care about designing them. Um, so yeah, that's a good option if you want to like do components just styling them and not caring about accessibility yourself. If you don't find, however, a library for a component that is like already accessible, like maybe you are building uh, maybe a toolbox, maybe you are building a chess game where you want the grid to be accessible. Maybe you most likely you will not find a component for a chess board game that is accessible. So the way you do that is you'll try to look for how someone else implemented this, how someone else built a grid that is accessible, and try to do that yourself. Most likely, whatever component you want to build, there is already someone who built it in an accessible way. Uh, like in most cases, you will not need to invent something yourself. Just need to see how uh, it's recommended to do that, and you need to implement that yourself. And one other thing that I would recommend is using ChatGPT for this. Actually, like it's really useful for like getting you uh, in the big like putting you in the right way. Maybe it cannot like build a fully accessible component for you. However, it's like for example, I want to make some kind of difficult component myself accessible. I tried to search on Google how to make this special component accessible, but I did not find any results. When I asked ChatGPT, like I explained what kind of component I'm trying to build, and asked ChatGPT how to make it accessible, it provided me with instructions. Maybe it was not like complete or enough, but like I learned what are the things that I need to look into. So I needed to look into the roving tab index. Actually, I got this that suggested from ChatGPT. I should use ARIA live. I should use ARIA relevant property because there are like too many ARIA properties, and you will most likely not know all of them at the beginning. So ChatGPT would suggest to you what you should use. you take this suggestion and Google it, learn more about, okay, what is this area live property do? What will area relevant to do, etc. So you will, like, after that you will learn what you need to do to make this component actually usable. So yeah, that's a good uh, a good resource to start with. And yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you for sticking around to the end. I hope that was useful and you learned a lot of stuff. Leave a like if you found this content useful. Uh, Follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of stuff there. Uh, and yeah, take care and have a nice day. Goodbye.